Hello, this is Lucas. Thank you for the opportunity of letting me send this video. I wanted to let you know that I will treat you as if you were a student in an introductory coding class. First, I'll go over the code line by line, and second, I will wrap it up with key insights that you should probably keep as you go forth in your coding class and in your career. So first, let's look at the very first line of the code where we define the function. When I first started coding, I found it really interesting how functions are organized and defined. And this is helpful because it lets us divide tasks and be clear with what variables we can work with. So first, we define the function. Then we give it a name so we can call it later on. And third, we specify the input variables within these parentheses. It is important to note that you can give this input a variable any name, though usually we try to be helpful and give things names that others can understand. Another interesting tangent is that in Python, we don't specify the type of input, whether it's a string or an integer or any other kind of type. So this brings up an important insight regarding the assumptions that you make when you're coding. In this problem, in this example, we are told that we will be working with a string, but that's not always the case. So it's super useful to always double check your assumptions and deal with potential errors accordingly. So now that we define the function, what we want to do in this problem is to make a copy of the input string where each character of the string is repeated twice. So to do so, we create this placeholder string that we can return later on, and we give it a name output. Note that the way that we define an empty string is through these two quotation marks. Then we have a for loop, and this makes sense. We stated before that we want the copy to have each character repeated, so we will probably want to go through each character. And this is exactly what a for loop does. For lm in input can read as for each character in the string. When I first began coding again, I found it interesting that there are many ways to define these for loops. We could also, for example, define this for loop by going through each index number in the length of the string. But in this case, it suffices to do for each character in the string. So now that we're going through each character, we want to do something to it so that we can edit or output variable and that we can return the right answer. So for each character, we want to grab this output placeholder variable, and we want to add the character that we're looking at twice. This is best illustrated through an example. Let's say we call twins of the word hi, hi. Now, we create the placeholder string output, which we will be returning later on. And then for each character, let's say first h, we grab it, we set it equals to what we had before, which is the empty string plus hh. And then we have, we go through the I, the next character, and we set this placeholder variable as what it was before, which is hh plus ii. Now we keep going until we run out of characters. In our example, we just ran out of characters, so we can continue. At the end, we return that placeholder variable, which now in our example should be hhii. And this is also a good moment to double check that the code makes sense. A good way of doing so is by testing edge cases. For example, we might try the case twins of the empty string, and we can see that it works. We create the empty string, we go through each character, but there are none, so we're done, and then we return the empty string. I would also encourage you to try another edge case, like for example, a really long string, and see that it also works. We had an example of a student code here, and I think we might have run out of time. So all that you need to know is that a good way to debug is to pick an example like our high example and see why it doesn't work if it doesn't work. Let's recap what we learned here at the end. We learned a lot of syntax. We learned why and how we define functions, to be mindful of assumptions and handle errors appropriately, that input types don't matter in Python and you can have many inputs, and the way for loops work, and many debugging techniques. With that said, thank you so much. Truly do appreciate the opportunity, and feel free to reach out with any questions. Thank you.